Let's bring in ABC News contributor and former Secret Service agent Don Mihalek. Don, you work with schools on security plans. What is the lockdown protocol for a large building like this and the surrounding neighborhood? Brown was locked down for, I think, close to 12 hours. How does law enforcement clear such a large area?
Typically, when a lockdown is ordered in a school, the whole school goes through its protocols where they secure the students inside rooms, they lock the doors. Sometimes they do an enhanced barricade system up against the doors in order to keep the students and the staff safe within the classrooms. Law enforcement then conducts a thorough search of the building, floor by floor, room by room, checking every single level of the building to make sure they've cleared any threats. And that can take a while depending on how large the building is and what they're looking for. Once they determine that the building is clear, then law enforcement actually has to go room by room to clear each classroom because they want to make sure that the people they're taking out of the classrooms aren't also a threat. And then they have to escort the individuals out of the classroom through to a reunification process where then the students and the staff have to go and be interviewed by law enforcement, medical attention, a crisis intervention, and then be reunited with their families and friends. It's a pretty lengthy process, and it's no surprise that a school the size of Brown University took as long as it did.
Witnesses on the ground there at Brown said they got a lot of security alerts from the university. How do large institutions like universities use these alert systems during an incident like an active shooter?
Well, that's one of the critical pieces, communication, that all of these active shooter protocols have these days, putting out effective and accurate information so that students and staff, because essentially most organizations use the run, hide, fight model. It changes in vernacular depending on what framework they use, but that framework is dependent upon good and accurate information to the individuals involved, so that way they can make a decision whether they can evacuate the area, whether they need to stay locked down, or worst case scenario, if the intruder is at the door, whether they need to fight. It goes to the importance of that communication piece within schools, within universities, and also making sure that surveillance systems and law enforcement are working together with school personnel to put out that accurate and rapid information.
We heard earlier from Aaron Katersky that 2 weapons were recovered from this person of interest, but we don't necessarily have any details about the weapons. But what forensic evidence from the scene is going to be critical to the investigation here?
Well, the FBI and the local law enforcement are going to go through their evidence recovery processes and recover any type of spent cartridges and recover any type of rounds that maybe were lodged in walls or doors. And then they're going to take that information and they're going to use it to compare it against the weapons that they recovered from this individual. They're also going to use it to rebuild the crime scene, to track the individual's movements, to put together a picture of where this individual went, how the attack played out, and where he attacked, because if it goes to trial, they're going to need to use that to be able to explain the mechanism of the attack and how the attack worked in order to be able to convict the individual.
Last night, officials in Rhode Island said pretty regularly that they prepare for these kinds of incidents. But is there anything that you can really do, any security measure that can actually be put in place to stop someone from walking into a lecture hall and just opening fire?
No, one of the problems today with all schools and academic institutions is this tension point between access control and being open, inviting, so that way it's an academic institution. Every educational institution struggles with this. You know, it sounds to me like Brown University had an access control protocol. We had to have a swipe card to get into the building, but they disabled it because of the study hall nature of what was going on at the school, which creates tension within the community because now you've opened yourself up to any individual coming into the school that could conduct some type of an egregious act like this. Schools themselves try to institute layers of security, whether it's some schools have gone to metal detectors, some have gone to surveillance systems that can track potential weapons. But in reality, it's very difficult to prevent this type of an attack with an individual, especially if an individual has familiarity with the building, has access to the building, and has planned it out extensively and knows the loopholes to get around.
Don Mihalek, thank you.